When you picture the devil, a very specific image comes to mind. A horned, malevolent entity obsessed with temptation, driven by a desire to cause spiritual harm. But go back to the first human hunters, and that creature vanishes. Early humans possessed no concept of spiritual evil or sin because they were entirely occupied by the brutal, immediate mechanics of physical survival. To make sense of a chaotic, unpredictable universe, the primitive mind personified its greatest physical obstacles. The terrifying armies of hell began as physical threats to human survival, creatures of muscle and appetite that needed a face. Take the earliest, most constant threat, starvation. The constant reality of famine birthed the hunger demon, an entity defined exclusively by a voracious, unnatural appetite. Tribal legends are full of these personifications, envisioned as massive, floating stomachs or towering ghosts with mouths too small to satisfy their cravings. You can see this fierce, ravenous imagery in figures like Kali, whose protruding tongue and necklaces of skulls represent the violent forces of nature and sacrifice. Then there were the elemental demons. These embodied the sudden power of weather, specifically storms and lightning. Across the globe, cultures independently looked at the erratic path of a lightning strike and personified it as a monster with crooked legs, a physical deformity reflecting the lightning's jagged movement. These early monsters were not malicious. Like a man-eating tiger or a winter blizzard, they were raw natural phenomena doing exactly what they do, categorized by humans trying to map a dangerous world. Mapping these threats eventually revealed a pattern. If some forces were clearly hostile, others were just as clearly beneficial. This division created a world of two opposing camps. Dualism. The sun is the perfect example. The exact same force that blesses a tribe with a bountiful harvest can also curse them with a lethal drought or sunstroke. Because of this fragility, ancient peoples actively prayed to and appeased both the benevolent and the destructive aspects of nature. They offered sacrifices to keep the terrifying power at bay while begging for its warmth. In this era, the monster and the god were frequently the exact same entity, reflecting nature's dual capacity to give and take life. As tribes grew into complex civilizations with rigid borders and institutional priesthoods, the landscape of belief shifted. When one empire conquered another, they deployed a sociological mechanism called the Abgat, or ex-god. This was a deliberate propaganda process used to turn a rival regime's deities into demons. This is the odium theologicum, the theological hatred that drives a new religion not to erase an old god, but to shove it into the underworld to enforce loyalty. You can see the specific historical evidence of this hijacking with the nature god Pan. His revered goat legs, hooves, and horns were stripped of their divinity and used as the visual template for the Christian Satan. We can track this shift in the words themselves. The ancient Sanskrit word deva, which originally meant a shining deity, inverted over centuries to form the root of the word devil. The modern devil is a political composite, a Frankenstein's monster stitched together from the scavenged, chained-up parts of outlawed rival gods. As humanity developed agriculture and science, we slowly conquered the physical elements that spawned those original survival demons. We no longer needed a monster to explain a failed crop or a freezing winter. Without a physical job to do, these entities mutated into purely theological inventions. A primitive demon is a physical obstacle. The modern devil is an abstract, evil will trying to corrupt the human soul. Monsters are, and always have been, a mirror. When humanity feared the dark and the cold, our nightmares were made of ice and shadow. Today, our devils reflect our deepest anxieties about morality, society, and our own internal flaws.